guys, it's Yumiko Cosplay, and welcome to my Japanese Study With Me! So this video is definitely different from any that I've published before, and that's because I wanted to show you guys one of my passions other than cosplay and Love Live, and that's my study for Japanese. I've been studying Japanese for 4 years now, ever since freshman year of high school, so if you count, I'm now a college freshman. That's wild to think about, but I filmed this video while I was studying for my Japanese final right before graduation, so I thought I could share it with you guys and also share some tips on studying for any type of language, whether that be Japanese, French, German, Italian, any type of language. I really like this method, and it's just how I study and how I've managed to get good grades all these years. So that being said, full disclosure before we start, I am not a language studying expert by any means. I just really love the language that I study, and this is the method that I use, and I feel that is most helpful. Of course, there are tons of other YouTube videos on how to study other languages, but I just wanted to make my own for those who are interested in studying Japanese, are studying Japanese, or have fully studied Japanese and would love to give me some tips on how to study the language better. So, with that being said, let's get started! So the first thing you're seeing on the screen here is me studying all of my Japanese 4 vocabulary for my final. So basically, if you don't know what Quizlet is, it's an online website that basically digitalizes all your flashcards. You basically put in a term and then put in the definition, and with that you can study with it in flashcard mode, write mode as I'm in now, which it basically gives you the vocabulary and then you have to type in the definition. This method is particularly most helpful to bodily kinesthetic learners who really need to use their hands and type things out rather than just plain visual learners who just like to flip the flashcard back and forth. There's plenty of different options for Quizlet, like there's a game mode, there's a matching mode, there's a test mode that generates automated test questions for you to practice. I absolutely love Quizlet, and for those who haven't used it yet, I encourage you to use it for 1 or 2 study sessions to try it out. It's absolutely free, and for those who already use it, keep using it because Quizlet is awesome! Quizlet is my first step in studying Japanese. I go through the whole textbook and literally write down every single vocabulary word that I'm supposed to remember on Quizlet and study that set until I get 100% accuracy. And another great thing about the app is if you don't get it on your first try, you can star the term, which will make it into a separate list so that all your starred terms or terms you have most trouble memorizing, you can study on its own without the mishmash of all the other terms that you already knew by heart. My next step in studying Japanese is definitely the kanji, which is the most difficult part of the language, if not the grammar portion. I've been really trying to improve my handwriting and speed at reading kanji, so the only way to do that for me personally is to just drill it into my head by writing it over and over and over again. And that's what I'm doing here on these pages. You can literally just find a notebook laying around my room, and it's just pages upon pages of the same kanji written over and over and over again. Unlike vocab words, you can't really practice this all through Quizlet because kanji is really an involvement of the hand muscles moving. And I know this is sometimes hard to do, but definitely learn it and memorize it in the correct stroke order. As a foreigner, this may be extremely hard to do sometimes because I look at a kanji and I'm like, why do you have so many strokes? That's totally unnecessary, and why do I have to do it in this specific way? But it's really important because if you're in Japan or you're talking to a Japanese person and you really don't know what that kanji is, you're gonna have to write it in the correct stroke order for them to understand you. It's extremely important, and it also slightly, minusculely affects how the final kanji is presented. And for those of you who are interested in picking up the Japanese language or just started learning Japanese, don't worry, this kanji stuff may look really difficult to you now, but as a first year, I'm telling you, I only learned the hiragana alphabet, and after you learn the hiragana alphabet, you learn katakana, and then finally you start incorporating kanji into it. And honestly, it might look difficult at first, but it makes reading go so much faster and you save so much space. So my tip for beginners who only just started learning Japanese is to drill the hiragana and katakana characters into your head. It is the foundation for studying Japanese, and you can't go by just BSing it and hoping that, maybe it'll come to your head, maybe it'll stick, maybe it won't. You definitely need to know the hiragana and katakana language inside and out before you even start remotely studying Japanese. And for those of you who are on a self-study, I would also extend the same bit of advice. Start off with the plain hiragana language and then move on to katakana. And once you finally got those two alphabets down, then start incorporating the kanji. Because if you go into Japanese and you see all these different characters and there's 3 alphabets going on, it might be very, very, very overwhelming to you, and that'll discourage you more from studying it. So take it easy, go one alphabet by one alphabet by one alphabet, and kanji is probably a never-ending process for foreigners who are learning Japanese. There's always new kanjis, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them. Not everyone knows every single kanji, what they mean, or how to write it. And that's okay, because guess what? We have the internet now. So don't be discouraged, keep studying, and eventually you'll definitely see progress, especially when you're watching anime and you're like, hey, I understood like 2 words of that but without the subtitles. It makes you feel great. Now, of course, kanji isn't written on its own character by character without some hiragana and katakana mixed in, so that's my next step in the studying process, which is writing out full sentences with kanji, hiragana, and katakana mixed in. Writing out these sentences is honestly so great because it incorporates all 3 of the Japanese alphabets and allows you to see how your translation skills have improved because you write the English version underneath. And while you're writing this, I highly, highly, highly suggest that you talk it out with yourself and actually read the sentences aloud in both Japanese and English. So unless you're purely going to use your knowledge in Japanese for typing through a text or emails, you definitely need to learn how to speak it, because that's a huge part of language learning. That being said, eventually you're gonna have to look kind of weird talking to yourself over a piece of notebook paper. And that's totally okay, because you're learning Japanese, which is one of the hardest languages to learn. So look kind of dumb for 5 seconds and use the language that you just learned by reading it out loud for the next 5 years. And for completely new beginners who don't know how to write in kanji just yet, this method still works because you can just use these sentences and write them all in hiragana instead. Now, if you're thinking, how do I come up with these sentences? Like, how do I learn Japanese grammar in order to come up with these wild, long-looking sentences? And that's okay, because I definitely did not come up with these sentences on my own. I definitely was blessed to be able to use a Japanese textbook for my class in high school, but if you don't have it, I'll definitely show you pictures of it later in case you're interested in buying. And if that's too much for you and you're just like, I just want to do this as a hobby, you can definitely look up song lyrics because they're usually formatted in sentences anyway, so you can definitely practice how the sentences are read, and then later, hey, you're gonna be awesome at Japanese karaoke. So that brings me to my next point, which is the Japanese textbook. This textbook is so great for beginners. It's so slow so that you can fully understand what you're learning and it doesn't rush you too fast without throwing too much at you. So I use the Adventures in Japanese series. I'm sure there's a lot more, but I only made it to the 2nd book, which really shows that Japanese is definitely a long-term commitment. If you were really excited and motivated to study Japanese and were doing this on your own without a class, you can definitely fly through these books because they separate them into chapters and different sections based on different topics. So the first chapter of the first book would be Polite Japanese Introduction. And now this one is on, I think, road signs or comparisons or anything like that. It goes through it section by section and moves from topic to topic. That is really, really nice. And each chapter is broken down into 4 different sections, starting off with a conversation example, grammar for that section, and vocabulary, and then after that, kanji. So it's really, really formatted extremely well, and it's so easy to learn from this book. I highly, highly suggest it. Each chapter also has a couple of culture notes, so definitely you can learn about Japanese culture and lifestyle there, and also pair work activities. And these pair work activities are crucial if you're going to speak Japanese. There's examples on how to talk, and then one person does a question, and then you answer. And of course, if you were studying it on your own, you can just do both parts by yourself and get even faster at talking in Japanese. What I'm showing here is absolutely crucial to your success in learning kanji, and that's a kanji key. So basically, I pulled all the kanji from my book and separated it by chapter, and you can see here that I wrote the kanji with the stroke order next to it, and underneath I put the English translation, and under that I put the Romaji translation, which is basically writing Japanese vocabulary in English alphabet letters, and the compounds needed to make a complete word with the kanji. This kanji key, as I like to call it, is a lifesaver because it shows you all the kanji that you've learned already with a quick glance and also breaks it down chapter by chapter. This kanji key that I made for myself was a lifesaver in so many different situations when I was reading a Japanese sentence and I was like, hey, I know I learned that kanji, but I completely forgot how it's read or how I write it or what it means. So I look back on this kanji key and with a quick glance you can already remember what the word is. And here is my particle usage key. It basically breaks down all the particles and all of its uses and when to use them, and has example sentences. So those are all the Japanese study tips I have for you in this video. So you start off studying your vocabulary via Quizlet, then move on to studying individual kanji characters by writing them in a notebook, then kanji compound sentences, and after that you study all the vocab and the sentence structure in the book, and also the pair work activities. And if you're self-studying Japanese, all of these methods still work, just apply them to whatever source you're learning from. That's all I have for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know it's not my usual video that I do, but if you liked it, give it a thumbs up and let me know what you think down below. If you're really interested in studying Japanese or want to know more about how I study, please leave a comment, let me know, and I'll see what I can do in the future to make a better, more thorough explanation of how I study the language. If you like this video and want to see more, make sure you subscribe. All my social media links are linked here and down below in the description. And my last video you can see here is on your right. Thank you again so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!